The Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is about to play, but if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, enjoy the trailer. Everywhere I go, I see his face.
I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know that you were going to be here after him.
You gonna be the next Iron Man now?
Because I am going up with
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, where every video brings entertainment to life. Spider-Man: Far From Home is a 2019 American superhero film based on the iconic Marvel Comics character Spider-Man, produced by Columbia Pictures in association with Marvel Studios and Pascal Pictures, and distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. The film serves as the direct sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, the 23rd installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, and the concluding chapter of the franchise's Phase 3. Directed by John Watts from a screenplay by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, the film stars Tom Holland as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, alongside Samuel L. Jackson, Zendaya, Kobe Smulders, Jon Favreau, J.B. Smoove, Jacob Batalon, Martin Starr, Tony Revolori, Marissa Tomei, and Jake Gyllenhaal. Set shortly after the universe-altering events of Avengers: Endgame, 2019, the story follows Peter Parker as he struggles to balance his responsibilities as a teenage superhero with his desire to live a normal life following the death of his mentor, Tony Stark. Hoping to take a break from heroics, Peter joins his classmates on a summer school trip across Europe, intending to confess his feelings to MJ. However, his vacation is interrupted when Nick Fury recruits him to assist Quentin Beck, also known as Mysterio, in battling a series of devastating elemental creatures that are attacking major European cities. As Peter gradually places his trust in Beck, he discovers a shocking conspiracy that forces him to confront deception, manipulation, and the immense burden of becoming the world's next leading superhero. Development on the sequel began as early as October 2016, even before the release of Spider-Man: Homecoming, with Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios planning a second installment for the MCU's Spider-Man franchise. The project was officially confirmed later that year, while Jon Watts, Tom Holland, and screenwriters Chris McKenna and Eric Summers were all confirmed to return by the end of 2017. Jake Gyllenhaal joined the cast as Quentin Beck, Mysterio, marking the live-action cinematic debut of one of Spider-Man's most famous comic book villains, while Samuel L. Jackson reprised his role as Nick Fury. Principal photography commenced in July 2018 under the working title Fall of Georgia and took place across multiple international locations, including Hertfordshire and London in England, Prague and Liberec in the Czech Republic, Venice in Italy, and various locations throughout the New York metropolitan area. The filmmakers emphasized practical European locations to distinguish the film visually from previous Spider-Man installments and to give the story a globe-trotting adventure aesthetic. Filming concluded in October 2018, followed by extensive visual effects work to create the spectacular elemental battles and Mysterio's elaborate illusion sequences, which became some of the MCU's most technically ambitious visual effects showcases. Sony Pictures launched one of the most expensive and carefully orchestrated marketing campaigns in cinematic history, deliberately avoiding major spoilers related to Avengers: Endgame until after that film's theatrical release. Tom Holland, well known for accidentally revealing MCU secrets, famously unveiled the title Spider-Man: Far From Home through a humorous social media video after pretending to have forgotten to announce it during a fan event. The promotional campaign included trailers, international fan events, merchandise collaborations, and viral marketing that portrayed Mysterio as a heroic figure before the film's release, helping preserve the impact of its central plot twist. Spider-Man: Far From Home had its world premiere at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on June 26, 2019, before receiving its theatrical release in the United States on July 2, 2019, in conventional, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, REL 3D, 4DX, screens, and other premium large formats. The film became the official conclusion of the MCU's Infinity Saga by serving as the epilogue to the events of Avengers: Endgame. Upon release, it received widespread positive reviews from critics and audiences alike, with particular praise directed toward Tom Holland's emotionally mature performance, Jake Gyllenhaal's charismatic and deceptive portrayal of Mysterio, Jon Watts' confident direction, the film's blend of humor, heartfelt coming-of-age storytelling, spectacular action sequences, and groundbreaking visual effects, especially the illusion sequences inspired by classic Spider-Man comics. Critics also commended the chemistry between Holland and Zendaya, the film's exploration of grief and responsibility following Tony Stark's sacrifice, and its memorable mid-credit and post-credit scenes, which significantly reshaped Spider-Man's future within the MCU. The film was a major commercial success, grossing approximately $1.133 billion worldwide against a production budget of around $160 million. It became the first Spider-Man film in history to surpass the $1 billion mark, the fourth highest grossing film of 2019, and at the time became Sony Pictures' highest grossing film ever worldwide, while also ranking among the highest-grossing films of all time. Its financial success further solidified Spider-Man as one of Marvel Studios' most valuable cinematic franchises and demonstrated the character's enduring global popularity. The film's ending directly set the stage for the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, which explored the consequences of Mysterio's actions and Peter Parker's exposed identity, concluding Jon Watts' MCU Spider-Man trilogy and becoming one of the most successful superhero films ever produced. Following the events of Avengers: Endgame, the world is still recovering from the devastating effects of the blip, during which half of all life in the universe vanished for 5 years before being restored by the Avengers. In the small town of Ixtenco, Mexico, former SHIELD agents Nick Fury and Maria Hill investigate the mysterious cyclone that suddenly forms without explanation. Their investigation leads to the appearance of a colossal Earth elemental, a monstrous creature capable of manipulating rocks and causing massive destruction. Before the creature can overwhelm them, a mysterious superpowered man named Quentin Beck arrives, displaying extraordinary abilities as he battles and seemingly destroys the monster. Impressed by his heroism and convinced that he possesses knowledge about the mysterious attacks, Fury and Hill recruit Beck to help combat the growing global threat posed by these elemental beings. Meanwhile, in New York City, Midtown School of Science and Technology resumes normal life after the return of students who disappeared during the blip. Because those who vanished did not age during the 5-year gap while everyone else continued living, many students now find themselves reunited with classmates who are still the same age while others have become significantly older. Peter Parker is among those who returned, but he continues to struggle emotionally with the loss of his mentor, Tony Stark, whose sacrifice saved the universe during the final battle against Thanos. Feeling the weight of Tony's legacy and increasingly pressured to become the next great hero, Peter longs for a brief escape from his superhero responsibilities. He eagerly joins his classmates including Ned Leeds, MJ, Flash Thompson, Betty Brant, Brad Davis, and their teachers Mr. Harrington and Mr. Della on a 2-week educational tour across Europe. Peter secretly plans to use the trip to confess his feelings to MJ and deliberately leaves his Spider-Man suit behind, hoping to enjoy a normal vacation. Before his departure, Happy Hogan informs Peter that Nick Fury has been trying to contact him, but Peter intentionally ignores Fury's repeated calls, believing that other heroes are better suited to handle global crises. The class's first destination is Venice, Italy, where Peter's hopes for a peaceful vacation are immediately shattered. A gigantic water elemental suddenly emerges from the city's canals, flooding streets and demolishing historic landmarks while thousands of civilians flee in panic. Peter secretly changes into a makeshift Spider-Man costume to rescue trapped civilians and protect his classmates without revealing his identity. As the destruction intensifies, Quentin Beck dramatically arrives, unleashing spectacular energy-based powers that ultimately destroy the water elemental after an intense battle. Following the incident, Nick Fury finally confronts Peter and explains that similar attacks have occurred around the world. Fury introduces Peter to Beck, who claims to be a survivor from another Earth within the multiverse. According to Beck, his alternate reality was destroyed after the 4 elementals Earth, Water, Air, and Fire killed billions of people, including his family. He warns that only the fire elemental remains and predicts that it will soon strike Prague in the Czech Republic. Fury also entrusts Peter with Tony Stark's final gift, a pair of advanced augmented reality glasses known as EDITH. Even dead, I'm the hero, an incredibly sophisticated artificial intelligence system capable of accessing Stark Industries' global satellite network, confidential databases, surveillance systems, and a vast fleet of heavily armed orbital drones. Although honored by Stark's trust, Peter feels unworthy of such immense responsibility and continues believing that Quentin Beck is the true hero the world needs. Determined to avoid becoming involved, Peter attempts to continue enjoying his vacation with his friends. However, Fury secretly manipulates the class itinerary, ensuring they are rerouted to Prague so Spider-Man will inevitably be present when the fire elemental attacks. During a lively carnival celebration, the enormous fire elemental emerges exactly as Beck predicted, engulfing the city in flames and widespread destruction. Peter is once again forced to balance protecting innocent civilians and keeping his secret identity hidden while assisting Beck in an intense battle. Working together, the pair apparently succeeds in destroying the final elemental, making Quentin Beck an international celebrity and earning him widespread praise as Earth's newest superhero. Believing the crisis has ended and convinced that Beck possesses the wisdom, experience, and confidence necessary to protect the planet, Peter meets Fury and Beck in Berlin, feeling overwhelmed by Tony Stark's expectations and doubting his own abilities. Peter voluntarily transfers complete control of EDITH and Stark's drone network to Beck, convinced that humanity will be safer in his hands. The moment Peter leaves, Beck reveals his true identity and celebrates with a hidden team of former Stark Industries employees and disgruntled ex-workers whose careers had been ruined by Tony Stark. Quentin Beck is not a superhero from another universe but a brilliant former holographic illusion specialist who was fired by Stark because of his unstable personality and obsession with recognition. Together with his team of programmers, engineers, technicians, and special effects experts including William Gender Riva, a former Stark employee previously involved in Obadiah Stane's Ironmonger project. Beck has spent years developing highly advanced holographic projection systems mounted on thousands of weaponized drones. These drones combine realistic visual effects, sound, environmental manipulation, and lethal weaponry to create convincing illusions that appear completely real. Beck himself secretly created every elemental attack, using the disasters to establish himself as a beloved global superhero. With EDITH now under his control, he plans to command Stark's orbital drone army to produce an even larger fabricated catastrophe in London, allowing him to save the world once again and permanently secure his status as the greatest Avenger and Tony Stark's rightful successor. Meanwhile, MJ begins piecing together evidence suggesting that Peter is secretly Spider-Man. She reveals that she recovered a strange piece of debris from the Prague battle, believing it might somehow be connected to Spider-Man. Upon examining the object, Peter discovers that it is actually one of Beck's damaged holographic projectors. Realizing the horrifying truth, Peter explains Beck's deception to MJ, and the two race to warn Nick Fury before Beck launches his final scheme. Peter travels alone to Berlin, hoping to expose Beck's conspiracy. However, Beck anticipates his arrival and traps Spider-Man inside one of the most elaborate illusion sequences ever created. Peter experiences terrifying hallucinations in which reality constantly shifts around him, confronting endless fake versions of Mysterio, giant monsters, undead Iron Man imagery, and impossible environments that completely destroy his sense of perception. Confused and psychologically overwhelmed, Peter unknowingly reveals that MJ, Ned, Happy Hogan, and several classmates possess evidence capable of exposing Beck's fraud. Believing he has finally defeated Spider-Man, Beck manipulates Peter into walking directly into the path of a speeding freight train, sending him flying and leaving him gravely injured. Peter survives the collision and eventually regains consciousness inside a prison cell in the Netherlands. After being mistaken for an unidentified traveler, he escapes with the reluctant assistance of local authorities and contacts Happy Hogan using one of Fury's secure communication systems. Happy rescues Peter aboard one of Stark Industries' private jets and offers him emotional reassurance, reminding him that Tony Stark never expected Peter to replace him because Peter's greatest strength was simply being himself. Regaining his confidence, Peter embraces the responsibility of being Spider-Man and designs an upgraded red and black suit using Stark's advanced fabrication technology while Happy proudly watches, recognizing Peter's growing maturity and leadership. As Peter heads toward London, Beck begins executing the final phase of his master plan. Using thousands of E.D.I.T.H. controlled drones, he generates the illusion of a colossal fusion monster combining the powers of all four elementals, creating the largest fabricated disaster in history. Beck also intends to eliminate Peter's classmates, particularly MJ and Ned, because they possess evidence proving that the elementals never existed. While civilians and emergency services desperately respond to the apparent supernatural attack, Peter arrives and launches a desperate assault against the drone swarm. Initially overwhelmed by Beck's increasingly sophisticated illusions, Peter eventually learns to trust his own Peter Tingley, his enhanced spider sense, allowing him to ignore the visual deceptions and perceive the drone's true locations. Relying entirely on instinct rather than sight, Spider-Man destroys dozens of drones in rapid succession before reaching Beck. Peter regains control of EDITH, ordering the remaining drones to deactivate and ending the illusion. Beck attempts one final act of deception by pretending to surrender while secretly trying to shoot Peter with a concealed handgun. Peter's spider sense alerts him just in time, causing Beck to accidentally fire into the path of one of his own armed drones. The drone fatally shoots Beck, who dies after secretly instructing William Ginter to recover and preserve all operational drone data. With Beck defeated, Peter reunites with his classmates and returns home to New York City. He finally confesses his feelings to MJ, who reveals that she shares his affection, and the two officially begin a romantic relationship. Believing his greatest challenge is finally over, Peter swings through Manhattan with MJ on their first adventure together. However, his life is instantly turned upside down during the film's mid-credits scene when J. Jonah Jameson, editor of the sensationalist news website thedailybugle.net, broadcasts manipulated footage recorded by Beck's drones. The edited video falsely portrays Spider-Man as the mastermind behind the London drone attack and frames Beck as an innocent hero who sacrificed his life trying to stop him. In Beck's final act of revenge, the footage also publicly reveals that Spider-Man's true identity is Peter Parker. Peter is left stunned as millions of people across the world learn his secret identity, setting in motion the events that will lead directly into Spider-Man: No Way Home. In the post-credits scene, another major revelation reshapes the story. It is revealed that the Nick Fury and Maria Hill seen throughout the film are actually the Skrulls Talos and Soren, shape-shifting extraterrestrial allies introduced in Captain Marvel, who had been impersonating Fury and Hill on behalf of the real Nick Fury. The genuine Fury is shown aboard a massive Skrull space station, supervising an off-world operation involving numerous Skrull refugees. After briefly checking in with Talos regarding Earth's situation, Fury returns to overseeing his mysterious mission in deep space, hinting at larger cosmic events that will shape the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man: Far From Home features an ensemble cast led by Tom Holland as Peter Parker. Spider-Man, a high school student from Queens who gained extraordinary spider-like abilities after being bitten by a radioactive spider and later became one of the youngest members of the Avengers. Set shortly after the events of Avengers: Endgame, Peter is emotionally devastated by the death of his mentor, Tony Stark, and struggles to balance his personal life with the enormous expectations placed upon him as Iron Man's potential successor. Rather than embracing the responsibilities of becoming Earth's next great hero, Peter simply wants to enjoy a normal summer vacation with his classmates and confess his feelings to MJ. Director John Watts described Peter's journey as the opposite of Spider-Man: Homecoming. Instead of desperately wanting to become an adult superhero, Peter now wishes to hold on to his childhood while the world insists that he grow up and accept greater responsibility. Holland's performance received widespread critical acclaim for portraying Peter's grief, insecurity, humor, compassion, and gradual transformation into a more confident and independent Spider-Man. Samuel L. Jackson reprises his role as Nick Fury, the legendary former director of SHIELD, who recruits Peter to investigate the series of mysterious elemental attacks occurring across Europe. Unlike Tony Stark's warm and encouraging mentorship in the previous film, Fury adopts a far harsher and more demanding approach, constantly pushing Peter toward accepting the responsibilities of being an Avenger. John Watts humorously described Fury as Peter's strict new stepfather, contrasting him with Stark's role as the supportive cool uncle. Throughout the film, Fury appears more impatient, secretive, and manipulative than in previous MCU appearances, later revealed to be because the character is actually the Skrull Talos impersonating Fury under the real Fury's orders. Zendaya returns as MJ, Peter Parker's intelligent, sarcastic, and highly observant classmate who gradually becomes his primary love interest. Unlike traditional portrayals of Mary Jane Watson, this version of the character possesses a dry sense of humor, exceptional intelligence, and remarkable intuition. Throughout the European trip, MJ slowly pieces together clues that eventually lead her to correctly deduce Peter's secret identity as Spider-Man. She later assists Peter in exposing Quentin Beck's deception and plays an important role during the London climax. Although she is simply referred to as MJ throughout the film, her full name, Michelle Jones Watson, is officially revealed in Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. The natural chemistry between Holland and Zendaya became one of the film's most praised aspects. Jake Gyllenhaal joins the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Quentin Beck, Mysterio, one of Spider-Man's most iconic comic book adversaries, initially introduced as an apparently noble superhero from the alternate reality known as Earth 833, Beck claims that the Elementals destroyed his world and murdered his family before he crossed into the MCU's universe. He quickly earns Peter Parker's admiration by presenting himself as a mature, experienced hero capable of replacing Tony Stark. However, Beck is ultimately revealed to be a brilliant but deeply narcissistic former Stark Industries holographic illusion designer who orchestrated the elemental attacks using advanced drone technology and holographic projections in order to manufacture himself as the world's greatest superhero. Gyllenhaal collaborated closely with the filmmakers to develop Beck's layered personality, portraying the fabricated heroic persona with complete sincerity while gradually revealing the character's manipulative, egotistical, theatrical, and dangerously unstable true nature. His performance, balancing charm, menace, and psychological manipulation, was widely praised and is frequently regarded as one of the MCU's strongest villain portrayals. Jon Favreau returns as Happy Hogan, Tony Stark's longtime friend, bodyguard, chauffeur, and the current head of security for Stark Industries. Following Stark's death, Happy becomes one of Peter Parker's closest remaining connections to Tony and serves as an emotional support figure during Peter's struggle with grief and self-doubt. While initially providing comic relief through his awkward interactions with Aunt May, Happy ultimately plays a crucial emotional role by reminding Peter that Tony never expected him to become the next Iron Man, but instead believed in Peter simply because he was uniquely himself. His encouragement helps restore Peter's confidence before the climactic battle in London. Kobe Smulders reprises her role as Maria Hill, Fury's trusted associate and former high-ranking SHIELD operative. She assists Fury throughout the investigation into the mysterious elemental attacks and participates in coordinating the global response to the growing crisis. In the film's post-credits scene, it is revealed that both Hill and Fury were actually the Skrulls Soren and Talos in disguise throughout the story, acting under the instructions of the real Nick Fury while he conducted operations in deep space. The film also features several returning members of Peter Parker's school community. Jacob Batalon portrays Ned Leeds, Peter's loyal best friend and confidant, whose enthusiasm and unwavering support provide much of the film's humor. Ned begins a surprisingly intense romance with fellow student Betty Brant during the class trip before the relationship quickly falls apart by the journey's conclusion. Tony Revolori returns as Eugene Flash Thompson, Peter's wealthy, arrogant, and social media-obsessed classmate who idolizes Spider-Man while remaining completely unaware that the superhero is actually Peter, whom he constantly bullies. Martin Starr reprises his role as Roger Harrington, the academically focused teacher responsible for supervising the European field trip, while J.B. Smoove joins the franchise's science teacher Julia Stahl, whose paranoia, comedic reactions, and constant concerns about witches and supernatural events provide additional comic relief. The role of Dell was specifically written for Smoove after the filmmakers enjoyed his chemistry with Tom Holland during an Audi promotional short film produced for Spider-Man: Homecoming. Marissa Tomei once again portrays May Parker, Peter's caring and supportive aunt who has fully accepted his identity as Spider-Man following the events of Spider-Man: Homecoming. Rather than discouraging Peter from risking his life, May actively encourages him to use his powers to help people while continuing their charitable work through the May Parker Foundation. Her growing romantic relationship with Happy Hogan also becomes a recurring source of humor throughout the film. The supporting student cast includes Angry Rice as Betty Brant, Peter's cheerful classmate and Ned's temporary girlfriend during the European vacation, Jorge Lindborg Jr. as Jason Ionolo, the Midtown student news anchor who documents many events throughout the trip. He is Brad Davis, a popular student who remained on Earth during the blip, causing him to age 5 years beyond Peter and his classmates and become Peter's romantic rival for MJ's attention. Zach Baraka's Zach, making history as the first openly transgender actor to appear in an MCU feature film, and Zoe Rahman as another member of Peter's class accompanying the Europe trip. Several important supporting characters expand Quentin Beck's conspiracy. Peter Billingsley reprises his role from Iron Man 2008, as William Gender Riva, the former Stark Industries scientist who was humiliated by Obadiah Stane during Tony Stark's first Iron Man adventure. Years later, Reva joins Beck's team and becomes one of the primary engineers responsible for developing the holographic drone illusion technology used to create the fake elemental attacks. Before Beck dies, he secretly instructs Reva to recover the drone data, enabling Beck's final act of revenge against Spider-Man. Clara Rushbrook portrays Janice Lincoln, one of Beck's trusted collaborators who helps coordinate the illusion operation, while Newman Akar appears as Dimitri, a covert operative working alongside Fury. Although comic readers recognize the name as belonging to the Chameleon, the film never explicitly confirms that interpretation. The film's memorable mid-credits scene introduces J.K. Simmons, who reprises his legendary role as J. Jonah Jameson, editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle.net. Simmons had previously portrayed a different version of Jameson in Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man trilogy, making his appearance the first instance of an actor reprising a non-MCU Marvel role within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His explosive broadcast reveals manipulated footage that falsely frames Spider-Man for London's destruction before publicly exposing Peter Parker's secret identity to the entire world, setting the stage for the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home. The post-credits scene features uncredited cameo appearances by Ben Mendelsohn and Sharon Blynn, reprising their roles as the Skrulls Talos and Soren from Captain Marvel. The scene reveals that they had been impersonating Nick Fury and Maria Hill throughout the entire film, while the real Fury secretly supervised the large Skrull operation aboard a space station. Additional contributions include Dawn Michelle King, who provides the voice of Tony Stark's Advanced Artificial Intelligence System EDITH. Even dead, I'm the Hero. Through archival footage, Robert Downey Jr. appears once again as Tony Stark, while Jeff Bridges briefly returns as Obadiah Stane during Beck's backstory. Images of Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Scarlett Johansson, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and Paul Bettany, Vision, are also featured in the film's opening tribute video honoring the fallen Avengers after the events of Avengers: Endgame, further emphasizing the emotional impact of the Infinity Saga's conclusion and Peter Parker's struggle to carry forward the legacy left behind by Earth's mightiest heroes. Development of Spider-Man: Far From Home began well before the release of Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, reflecting the long-term creative partnerships between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios. In June 2016, Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman confirmed that both studios were fully committed to continuing the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Spider-Man franchise beyond its first standalone film. 1 month later, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige explained that, if additional films were produced, the creative team intended to structure Spider-Man's trilogy similarly to the Harry Potter film series, with each installment representing a different academic year in Peter Parker's high school life. Following this approach, Spider-Man: Homecoming would chronicle Peter's sophomore year, while the sequel would explore his junior year and his gradual transition into adulthood. By October 2016, even before Homecoming had entered theaters, early discussions regarding the sequel were already underway. These conversations focused on expanding Peter Parker's character arc, determining the film's central themes, and selecting a new villain who had not yet appeared in a live-action Spider-Man film within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tom Holland, who had signed a multi-film contract with both Sony and Marvel, confirmed that plans for at least 2 additional standalone Spider-Man films were already in development. In December 2016, following the overwhelmingly positive reception to the first Spider-Man: Homecoming trailer, Sony Pictures officially scheduled the sequel for release on July 5, 2019, demonstrating the studio's confidence in the franchise. However, this announcement also created a unique marketing challenge for Marvel Studios. At the time, Marvel was carefully guarding the secrets surrounding Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, and Avengers: Endgame, 2019, in which Peter Parker would famously disappear during Thanos' snap before eventually returning. Because Far From Home was scheduled for release only a few months after Endgame, Sony's marketing campaign would inevitably reveal Spider-Man's survival long before audiences saw Endgame. making it impossible to preserve one of Marvel's biggest story surprises. Despite these concerns, both studios ultimately accepted that the release schedule could not remain hidden and instead focused on minimizing additional spoilers during the promotional campaign. Following the successful collaboration between Sony and Marvel Studios on Homecoming, the studios sought to continue integrating Spider-Man more deeply into the broader MCU. In June 2017, reports revealed that Marvel would once again allow Sony to use another major Marvel Cinematic Universe character alongside Spider-Man, much like Tony Stark's prominent role in Homecoming. Kevin Feige explained that Spider-Man's appearances in Avengers, Infinity War and Avengers Endgame would fundamentally reshape Peter Parker's future, providing the emotional and narrative foundation for the sequel in much the same way that Captain America: Civil War had established the events of Homecoming. Rather than creating an isolated Spider-Man adventure, Marvel intended for the sequel to explore the consequences of Peter's experiences with the Avengers and the emotional impact of Tony Stark's sacrifice, allowing the film to function as both a coming-of-age story and an epilogue to the Infinity Saga. Both Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios were eager to bring director Jon Watts back after the critical and commercial success of Spider-Man: Homecoming. Kevin Feige publicly stated that Watts' return was always the studio's primary goal, while Watts confirmed that he remained under contract for another Spider-Man film. Negotiations continued throughout mid-2017 before his return was officially finalized. Feige also revealed several creative decisions early in development, including that the sequel would continue the naming convention established by Homecoming by using another subtitle rather than simply adding the numeral 2. He further explained that the filmmakers intentionally wanted to introduce another classic Spider-Man villain who had never before appeared in a live-action Spider-Man film within the MCU. During this period, Jon Watts discussed several comic book characters he found particularly interesting, including Morbius, Blade, and the Chameleon, although none ultimately became the film's primary antagonist. Actress Marissa Tomei also expressed enthusiasm for returning as Aunt May following her expanded role in Homecoming. As development progressed, the filmmakers carefully considered how to position the sequel within the aftermath of Avengers: Endgame. Ultimately, the story was set approximately 8 months after the events of Endgame, allowing the world enough time to begin recovering from the catastrophic effects of the blip while still exploring the emotional consequences of Tony Stark's death. Jon Watts described this narrative setting as one of the project's greatest creative challenges because the film needed to acknowledge the enormous changes brought about by Endgame while still remaining an entertaining and accessible Spider-Man adventure. Rather than becoming overwhelmed by the larger MCU mythology, the filmmakers focused on showing how ordinary people, particularly teenagers, would adjust after half the world's population disappeared for 5 years and then suddenly returned. This led to one of the film's most distinctive concepts, because Peter Parker, Ned Leeds, MJ, Flash Thompson, and several other Midtown students had all vanished during Thanos' snap. They returned exactly the same age, while classmates who survived the blip had naturally aged 5 additional years. Jon Watts compared this unusual situation to Disney's 1986 science fiction adventure Flight of the Navigator, in which the protagonist mysteriously returns years later without having aged. Watts believed the concept created both emotional depth and comedic opportunities, allowing the film to explore the strange realities of post-blip life through humorous situations while simultaneously reinforcing Peter's feelings of displacement in a world that had dramatically changed during his absence. Another major creative objective during development was to distinguish Far From Home from its predecessor by expanding Spider-Man's world beyond New York City. The filmmakers decided to send Peter Parker on a school-sponsored educational tour across Europe, allowing the story to unfold in Venice, Prague, Berlin, London, and several other iconic international locations. This globe-trotting approach gave the sequel a fresh visual identity while reinforcing Peter's desire to escape the constant pressure of being Spider-Man. Instead of confronting neighborhood-level threats, Peter would be forced into an international crisis involving mysterious elemental disasters and global media attention. At the same time, the writers sought to explore themes of grief, responsibility, trust, identity, hero worship, and the dangers of misinformation. with Quentin Beck serving as a manipulative antagonist who exploits society's desperate need for new heroes following Iron Man's death. These thematic elements ultimately transformed Spider-Man: Far From Home into both a heartfelt coming-of-age story and the official epilogue to the Infinity Saga, bridging the conclusion of Avengers: Endgame with the next era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe while laying the narrative foundation for Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. Principal photography for Spider-Man: Far From Home officially commenced on July 2, 2018, with locations shooting in Hertfordshire, England, under the working title Fall of George, a codename used to maintain secrecy during production. The film united director John Watts with cinematographer Matthew J. Lloyd, who had previously collaborated with Watts on the 2015 independent thriller Cop Car. Watts had originally hoped to bring Lloyd aboard for Spider-Man: Homecoming, but scheduling conflicts caused by Lloyd's commitment to Power Rangers, 2017, made that impossible for the sequel. However, the partnership was finally realized, with Lloyd becoming responsible for crafting the film's distinct visual style. From the outset, the filmmakers envisioned Far From Home as a globe-trotting adventure that would visually separate itself from previous Spider-Man films by moving the action beyond New York City and showcasing a wide variety of real European locations. Shortly after production began, filming expanded throughout London, including numerous locations across East London and London Stansted Airport, while extensive soundstage work was simultaneously conducted at Warner Brothers Studios Leavesden near Watford. To recreate several large-scale action sequences, the production constructed an elaborate replica of Venice's canals and surrounding architecture on one of the studio's backlots, allowing the visual effects team to seamlessly combine practical environments with extensive CGI during the water elemental battle. As filming progressed during the summer of 2018, numerous casting announcements emerged through on-set photography and official studio confirmations. Returning actor Hemke Madara was spotted reprising his role as neighborhood deli owner Mr. Delmer, while comedians J.B. Smoove and Newman Akar joined the cast in newly created roles as teacher Julia Stell and Fury's associate Dimitri, respectively. In early August, Samuel L. Jackson and Kobe Smulders were officially confirmed to be returning as Nick Fury and Maria Hill, strengthening the film's direct connection to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe following the events of Avengers: Endgame. Later that month, Australian actor Remy Hia joined the production as Brad Davis, a fellow Midtown student who becomes Peter Parker's romantic rival during the European vacation. During September 2018, production moved extensively throughout the Czech Republic, with major filming taking place in Prague and Liberec. Prague served as the backdrop for several of the film's most ambitious action sequences, including the spectacular confrontation with the fire elemental during the city's carnival celebration. The production utilized Prague's historic streets, bridges, plazas, and Baroque architecture to create a visually distinctive setting unlike anything previously seen in an MCU Spider-Man film. Additional scenes were filmed in Liberec before the production relocated to Venice, Italy. Later that month, Venice provided one of the film's most recognizable real-world settings, with the crew filming across the city's canals, narrow streets, bridges, and famous public squares. These authentic Italian locations significantly enhanced the film's international atmosphere and helped reinforce the story's vacation-inspired tone while providing a dramatic backdrop for the massive water elemental attack that opens Peter Parker's European adventure. In October 2018, production returned to the United States for its final filming schedule, shooting throughout New York City and Newark, New Jersey, this time using the alternate working title Bosco to further conceal the production from the public. Location filming occurred around several iconic New York landmarks, including Madison Square Garden, Penn Station, and Newark Liberty International Airport, where the film's opening and concluding scenes were captured. One amusing production anecdote involved the airport sequence featuring Flash Thompson. An unnamed actor had originally been hired to portray Flash's wealthy father arriving to collect him after the school trip. However, actor Tony Revolori suggested to producer Chris Buongiorno that it would be significantly funnier if Flash's butler, Gerald, appeared instead, subtly emphasizing Flash's emotionally distant relationship with his parents. The filmmakers liked the idea enough to film both versions of the scene before ultimately selecting the Butler version for the theatrical release. Principal photography officially concluded on October 16, 2018, after approximately 3.5 months of production across multiple countries. Cinematographer Matthew J. Lloyd approached the film as a cinematic road trip adventure, believing that every destination visited by Peter Parker and his classmates should possess its own unique visual identity. Rather than maintaining a single consistent look throughout the film, Lloyd deliberately developed distinct lighting styles, color palettes, and photographic techniques for each country to reflect both its architecture and emotional atmosphere. During pre-production, he personally visited Venice several times to study the city's natural lighting conditions, observing how sunlight reflected off the historic stone buildings and canals to create a warm, golden, pastel appearance. Lloyd designed the Venice sequences to emphasize soft sunlight, warm sandy colors, and bright reflections, creating an inviting vacation atmosphere before the sudden arrival of the water elemental transformed the city into a disaster zone. In contrast, Prague was photographed using a richer blend of warm and cool tones, highlighting the city's historic Baroque architecture, textured stonework, and dramatic nighttime illumination. The production also incorporated much of Prague's existing architectural lighting rather than replacing it, allowing the city to maintain an authentic European aesthetic while enhancing the realism of the action sequences. Lloyd's previous experience working within the Marvel Universe, including serving as cinematographer on Marvel Television's Daredevil and The Defenders, as well as contributing additional photography for Thor, Ragnarok and Captain Marvel, helped him understand the visual language expected of the Marvel Cinematic Universe while still allowing Far From Home to establish its own identity. From a technical standpoint, the production initially planned to utilize the Arri Alexa 65 digital camera system, which had become a standard choice for many Marvel Studios productions due to its exceptional image quality and large format capabilities. However, Sony Pictures requested that the filmmakers prioritize optimizing the production for the studio's preferred 2K digital workflow. As a result, the cinematography team instead adopted the lighter and more versatile Arri Alexa Mini camera system. The switch proved advantageous because the Alexa Mini's compact size made it significantly easier to transport through crowded European streets, canals, airports, and historic landmarks while also simplifying the integration of practical photography with the film's extensive visual effects. The smaller cameras allowed for greater mobility during complex action scenes involving Spider-Man's acrobatics and the massive drone-generated illusion sequences while maintaining the high image quality expected from a Marvel Studios production. Following the completion of principal photography, the film entered an extensive post-production period involving visual effects work from numerous international effects studios. Thousands of CGI shots were created to realize Quentin Beck's holographic illusions, the elemental creatures, Spider-Man's web-swinging sequences, and the climactic drone battle over London. Particular attention was devoted to Mysterio's surreal illusion sequences, which blended practical photography with cutting-edge digital imagery inspired by the character's psychedelic comic book appearances. The combination of authentic international locations, practical set construction, carefully planned cinematography, and state-of-the-art visual effects ultimately gave Spider-Man: Far From Home one of the most visually distinctive looks in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, successfully transforming the sequel into a globe-spanning superhero adventure while preserving the grounded coming-of-age tone that defined Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man. Following the completion of principal photography in October 2018, Spider-Man: Far From Home entered an extensive post-production process that lasted until June 2019. During this period, editor Lee Folsom Boyd worked closely with director John Watts and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige to refine the film's pacing, emotional character arcs, and action sequences while integrating thousands of visual effects shots. In late October 2018, Sony Pictures also expanded its long-term partnership with IMAX Corporation through a new multi-film distribution agreement that ensured Spider-Man: Far From Home would receive a worldwide IMAX release alongside other major Sony productions. As post-production progressed, the filmmakers continued shaping the film's mythology and marketing strategy. During Sony's presentation at CCXP Brazil in December 2018, it was officially revealed that the mysterious creatures known as the Elementals would play a central role in the story. Although presented within the film as ancient interdimensional monsters representing the elements of earth, water, fire, and air, the creatures were intentionally designed as original MCU creations inspired by several classic Spider-Man comic book villains rather than direct adaptations. The water elemental incorporated characteristics associated with Hydro Man. The fire elemental borrowed visual inspiration from Molten Man, the earth elemental echoed aspects of Sandman, and the air elemental drew from Cyclone. While these comic book influences informed the creatures' designs, none of the elementals were officially identified by those villain names within the film itself, with only a brief reference to Hydro Man's comic book alter ego, Morris Bench, appearing as an in-universe rumor. During early creative discussions, the filmmakers also considered introducing a fifth elemental inspired by the Spider-Man villain Swarm, but the concept was ultimately abandoned in favor of focusing on the four primary elemental entities. Throughout post-production, the filmmakers continued making smaller narrative refinements to strengthen character development. Martin Starr was officially confirmed to reprise his role as Teacher Roger Harrington, while additional details regarding Flash Thompson's neglected family life were incorporated into the final edit. Building upon Tony Revolori's earlier suggestion to replace Flash's father with his family butler during the airport reunion scene, the editors also inserted brief text messages shown through the EDITH interface revealing that Flash's wealthy parents remain absent from his life, subtly adding emotional depth to a character previously portrayed primarily for comic relief. In April 2019, Sony Pictures slightly advanced the film's theatrical release from July 5 to July 2, 2019, allowing it to open earlier during the Independence Day holiday period in North America. During promotional events for Avengers: Endgame, Kevin Feige also clarified a significant point regarding the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline by confirming that Spider-Man: Far From Home would serve as the official conclusion of Phase 3 and the entire Infinity Saga, rather than functioning as the opening chapter of Phase 4 as many fans had initially expected. Around the same period, Samuel L. Jackson returned to participate in additional photography and reshoots, allowing the filmmakers to refine several story sequences and improve continuity before the film's completion. One of the most closely guarded aspects of post-production involved the film's now iconic mid-credits scene, which reintroduced J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Director John Watts explained that Marvel deliberately postponed contacting Simmons until very late in the production process to minimize the possibility of leaks. Although there was uncertainty regarding whether Simmons would be interested in reprising one of his most beloved comic book roles, Watts insisted that no alternative actor was ever seriously considered, believing that Jameson simply could not be portrayed by anyone else. Before accepting the offer, Simmons personally contacted director Sam Raimi to receive his blessing, as the actor had originally portrayed Jameson throughout Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy between 2002 and 2007. Marvel Studios emphasized that this version of Jameson was not the same character from Raimi's universe but instead a completely new Marvel Cinematic Universe interpretation sharing the same actor. Simmons filmed his scenes in a Disney conference room using a green screen setup, with the sequence later enhanced through digital compositing. Rather than presenting Jameson as the editor of a traditional newspaper, the filmmakers modernized the character into the outspoken host of the sensationalist online news platform thedailybugle.net, reflecting the contemporary rise of internet personalities, conspiracy media, and politically charged online journalism. John Watts noted that the exaggerated personality which once seemed almost cartoonish in Raimi's films now felt remarkably believable within today's media landscape. Kevin Feige similarly explained that transforming Jameson into a loud, internet-based commentator made the character more relevant to modern audiences while preserving his aggressive personality and obsessive hatred of Spider-Man. Simmons later acknowledged that although he and Watts occasionally differed regarding the character's updated portrayal, He embraced the opportunity to reinterpret Jameson for a new generation. The filmmakers devoted equal attention to the film's post-credits scene, which delivers one final narrative twist by revealing that the Nick Fury and Maria Hill appearing throughout the story were actually the shape-shifting Skrulls Talos and Soren in disguise, reprising their roles from Captain Marvel, 2019. John Watts described Far From Home as fundamentally a con man movie built around deception, false identities, and illusion, making one final surprise twist the perfect thematic conclusion. Unlike the humorous post-credit gag featured as the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, Watts wanted this sequence to significantly impact the future direction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The reveal also subtly explained several unusual behaviors displayed by Fury throughout the film, particularly his occasional unfamiliarity with Peter Parker and his somewhat awkward interactions with other characters. The sequence was partially assembled using footage originally intended for the film's opening scenes before being reworked into the final reveal. Kobe Smulders later revealed that she was informed of the Skrull twist by Kevin Feige only shortly before the film's release, preserving the surprise even for members of the cast. Visual effects represented one of the most ambitious aspects of the entire production. Under the supervision of Academy Award-winning visual effects supervisor Yannick Sears, Spider-Man: Far From Home relied on the combined efforts of numerous internationally renowned visual effects companies, including Sony Pictures Imageworks, Industrial Light Magic, ILM, Framestore, Scanline VFX, Image Engine, Luma Pictures, Rising Sun Pictures, Method Studios, and Territory Studio. Collectively, these studios produced thousands of digital effects shots that seamlessly blended practical photography with complex CGI environments, holographic illusions, creature animation, digital doubles, advanced simulations, and photorealistic destruction. Following the critical success of Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse, 2018, the creative team explored ways to bring similarly imaginative visual experimentation into the live-action MCU while maintaining realism. Although several concepts were considered for visually representing Spider-Man's Peter Tingle, Spider-Sense, the filmmakers ultimately rejected stylized effects because they either conflicted with the grounded aesthetic of the live-action world or too closely resembled Daredevil's radar sense from Marvel Television. Instead, Peter's growing mastery of his spider-sense was communicated through Tom Holland's physical performance, editing, camera movement, and choreography, allowing audiences to experience his heightened instincts without overt visual indicators. Marvel Studios' head of visual development Ryan Meinerding led the redesign of Mysterio, creating a costume that combined faithful comic book elements with cinematic realism. The character retained his iconic transparent fishbowl helmet while incorporating ornate armor inspired by legendary MCU heroes such as Thor and Doctor Strange, reinforcing Quentin Beck's fabricated image as an experienced mystic warrior. Yannick Sears described Beck as an extravagant performer whose entire identity revolves around theatrical presentation, comparing him to a superhero version of the flamboyant entertainer Liberace. Scanline VFX created the fully digital version of Mysterio used throughout the film's large-scale illusion sequences, while Rising Sun Pictures developed the holographic briefings in which Beck explains the supposed origins of the Elementals. These holograms incorporated scientifically inspired visualizations of black holes, planetary destruction, mythology, and elemental phenomena to convincingly sell Beck's fabricated backstory. Each of the elementals required entirely different visual approaches. Rather than functioning as conventional CGI monsters, the creatures combined motion capture performances, complex particle simulations, environmental destruction, fluid dynamics, fire simulations, debris systems, and procedural animation. Scanline VFX created the earth and water elementals, emphasizing enormous masses of moving rock and realistically simulated oceans. Luma Pictures designed the fire elemental, experimenting with multiple anatomical structures before John Watts selected a more creature-like appearance that gradually evolved from an upright humanoid into an increasingly monstrous inferno as it absorbed surrounding metal structures. Sony Pictures Imageworks ultimately created the gigantic fusion monster seen during the London finale, internally nicknamed the Super Duper Elemental, SU, which merged all four elemental powers into a single massive illusion. This digital creation required extensive simulations involving molten lava, flowing water, electrical storms, collapsing rock formations, smoke, explosions, and lightning effects while interacting with thousands of weaponized drones hidden inside the illusion. ImageWorks also handled much of the climactic battle over London's Tower Bridge, one of the most technically demanding sequences in the film. The studio digitally reconstructed nearly the entire bridge, as practical photography alone proved insufficient for the scale of destruction required. Although artists initially intended to fully render only sections directly visible to the camera, the complexity of the action eventually required nearly 80% of the landmark to be recreated in full digital detail. The studio further developed dozens of specialized Stark drones equipped with varying weapon systems, including missiles, Gatling guns, flamethrowers, sonic emitters, and heavy artillery, allowing the action choreography to remain visually dynamic throughout the extended battle. ImageWorks also created Peter Parker's upgraded red and black Spider-Man suit introduced during the film's climax, sharing the digital asset with other visual effects vendors to ensure continuity across sequences. One of the film's most celebrated achievements became the surreal illusion battle created primarily by Framestore, in which Quentin Beck traps Spider-Man inside a nightmarish psychological labyrinth of constantly shifting realities. Originally planned as a relatively brief sequence, Marvel Studios expanded the scene to approximately 150 visual effects shots after being impressed by Framestore's early concepts. The elaborate sequence was meticulously pre-visualized before filming began, requiring carefully choreographed motion capture performances and extensive digital compositing. The artists combined existing digital Spider-Man assets with newly created imagery, including towering statues of fallen Avengers, impossible architectural landscapes, giant Mysterio projections, shattered realities, floating debris, and the unforgettable zombie Iron Man, whose corpse emerges from Stark's grave in one of the MCU's most disturbing visual moments. The sequence's swirling green smoke effects were generated using Houdini, while the transitions between reality and illusion required painstaking frame-by-frame integration with the BARF technology previously introduced in Captain America: Civil War. Framestore's visual effects supervisor Alexis Wajsprot cited the elaborate title sequences of the James Bond franchise, particularly Spectre, 2015A, as major inspirations for the graveyard imagery. Yannick Sears additionally acknowledged influences ranging from the animated short Duck Amuck, 1953, and Satoshi Kon's Paprika, 2006, to A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. And Disney's surreal pink elephants on parade sequence from Dumbo, 1941. Collectively, these inspirations allow the illusion sequence to blend psychological horror, comic book fantasy, dream logic, and theatrical spectacle into one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most inventive and visually acclaimed action scenes. Additional visual effects work included Method Studios digitally inserting Spider-Man into Venice's speedboat chase using assets from Spider-Man: Homecoming image engine, constructing Stark's private jet, EDITH satellite systems, drone fleet, and a fully digital field containing nearly 2 million tulips to replace an ordinary grass field filmed in the United Kingdom for the Netherlands sequence, and Rising Sun Pictures creating advanced holographic scientific displays inspired by mythology and astrophysics. The film's opening and end title sequences were designed by Perception, completing a post-production process that successfully combined practical filmmaking with cutting-edge digital artistry. By the time post-production concluded in June 2019, Spider-Man: Far From Home had become one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most visually sophisticated productions, earning widespread acclaim for its groundbreaking illusion effects, photorealistic creature animation, inventive action choreography, and seamless integration of practical photography with state-of-the-art computer-generated imagery. Marketing for Spider-Man: Far From Home faced an unprecedented challenge because the film was scheduled for release only a few months after Avengers: Endgame. Since Peter Parker had disintegrated during the events of Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, and remained absent until his resurrection in Endgame, 2019. Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios had to carefully balance promoting the sequel without revealing major spoilers. Industry observers noted that any substantial advertising campaign would inevitably confirm Spider-Man's return before Endgame reached theaters. Sony therefore coordinated closely with Marvel to develop a marketing strategy that initially avoided direct references to the events of Infinity War and Endgame. The campaign instead emphasized Peter Parker's European school vacation, the introduction of Quentin Beck, Mysterio, and the mysterious elemental creatures, presenting the film as a light-hearted international adventure while deliberately concealing its deeper connections to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film's first footage debuted during Sony Pictures' panel at CCXP Brazil on December 8, 2018, where stars Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal introduced the exclusive trailer. The preview intentionally avoided mentioning Peter's fate or the aftermath of Infinity War, allowing audiences to view the film largely as a continuation of Spider-Man: Homecoming. The trailer received its worldwide online release on January 15, 2019, through Tom Holland's Instagram account, accompanied by an alternate international version featuring slightly different footage. While fans immediately recognized that Peter Parker's presence confirmed his eventual return after Endgame, the trailer carefully avoided explaining how this occurred, preserving Marvel's biggest cinematic surprise. Critics responded positively to the footage, praising its colorful European setting, youthful tone, comedic chemistry, and the inclusion of Nick Fury, while many also appreciated the apparent introduction of Mysterio as a heroic ally. Reviewers further noted that the marketing cleverly misdirected audiences by portraying the Elementals as the primary antagonists while hiding Beck's true identity as the film's villain. The accompanying teaser poster, featuring Spider-Man's mask decorated with travel stickers from destinations such as Venice, Prague, Berlin, and London, reinforced the vacation theme and became one of the campaign's most recognizable promotional images. Within its first 24 hours of release, the trailer accumulated approximately 130 million online views, surpassing Spider-Man: Homecoming to become Sony Pictures' most viewed trailer during that period. Following the theatrical release of Avengers: Endgame, Sony launched the film's second major marketing phase. On May 6, 2019, a new trailer debuted with a special introduction by Tom Holland warning audiences that it contained significant spoilers for Endgame. This allowed the promotional campaign to openly acknowledge Tony Stark's death, Peter Parker's return following the blip, and the emotional consequences of the Infinity Saga. Director John Watts expressed relief that the studio could finally discuss the film's true narrative without worrying about revealing Marvel's closely guarded secrets. The second trailer explored Peter's struggle to live up to Iron Man's legacy, highlighted Nick Fury's recruitment of Spider-Man, expanded the role of Mysterio, introduced the concept of the multiverse he later revealed to be part of Beck's deception, and showcased several large-scale action sequences across Europe. The trailer proved even more successful than the first, attracting approximately 135 million views within its first 24 hours, setting another viewing record for Sony Pictures. To further connect the two films, selected screenings of Avengers: Endgame concluded with a special message from Tom Holland encouraging audiences to remain seated after the credits, where the new Far From Home trailer was presented as an exclusive preview. Sony Pictures also launched one of the largest promotional partnerships ever assembled for a superhero film. United Airlines served as a major promotional partner, with one of its Boeing 777 aircraft and several airline employees appearing directly within the film while simultaneously supporting an extensive advertising campaign. Audi continued its long-standing collaboration with Marvel Studios by promoting multiple vehicles, particularly the fully electric Audi e-tron SUV, alongside several other Audi models featured throughout the movie. Additional promotional partnerships included Dr. Pepper, Papa John's Pizza, Burger King, and numerous international brands that produced television commercials, retail displays, contests, limited edition packaging, digital promotions, and merchandise tied to the film's release. Combined, these corporate partnerships generated an estimated promotional marketing value of approximately $288 million, making Spider-Man: Far From Home, one of the most extensively marketed films ever released at the time. Marketing efforts continued following the theatrical release to support the film's home media debut. In September 2019, Sony released a humorous Night Monkey trailer built around Peter Parker's improvised black-suited European alter ego, repurposing existing footage into an entirely new promotional campaign that was widely praised for its creativity. Later that month, Sony expanded the film's fictional universe by launching a real-world version of the DailyBugle.net, transforming J. Jonah Jameson's conspiracy-driven news website into an interactive viral marketing experience. The site featured new videos starring J.K. Simmons reprising his role as Jameson, delivering sensational reports blaming Spider-Man for the London drone attack while defending Mysterio as a fallen hero. Designed to resemble modern conspiracy-driven online media outlets, the website included fabricated news articles, social media content, eyewitness testimonies, and fictional accounts from victims of the blip, encouraging fans to explore the MCU beyond the film itself. One article initially suggested that an individual had been seriously injured after reappearing from the blip, seemingly contradicting earlier statements from Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige that everyone had safely returned. After fans pointed out the inconsistency, Sony updated the website's storyline to reveal that the report had been fabricated as part of an insurance fraud scheme, maintaining continuity within the Marvel Cinematic Universe while reinforcing the site's satirical and unreliable nature. Through its carefully timed trailers, spoiler-conscious promotional strategy, record-breaking digital engagement, extensive global brand partnerships, and innovative viral campaigns, Spider-Man: Far From Home established one of the most successful and creatively executed marketing campaigns in the history of both Sony Pictures and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man: Far From Home had its world premiere on June 26, 2019, at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, where the cast, filmmakers, and numerous members of the Marvel Cinematic Universe gathered to celebrate the film's debut. The premiere marked the first major Spider-Man event following the record-breaking success of Avengers: Endgame and generated significant media attention because it represented audiences' first opportunity to see the next chapter of Peter Parker's story after the conclusion of the Infinity Saga. Following its premiere, the film began its international rollout on June 28, 2019, opening first in China and Japan, two of the franchise's largest overseas markets. It was subsequently released in the United States on July 2, 2019, through Sony Pictures releasing, in a wide variety of premium exhibition formats, including REL 3D, IMAX, IMAX 3D, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, ScreenX, D-Box, and other premium large-format presentations, allowing audiences to experience the film's extensive visual effects and action sequences with enhanced picture and sound quality. The release date had originally been scheduled for July 5, 2019, but Sony moved it forward to July 2 in order to take advantage of the extended Independence Day holiday period in North America and maximize its opening week box office performance. The film received one of the widest theatrical launches in Sony Pictures history. In the United States and Canada, Spider-Man: Far From Home opened in 4,634 theaters, making it the second widest domestic release of all time at that point, behind only Avengers: Endgame. The early July release strategy proved highly successful, allowing the film to dominate the global box office during the holiday week while benefiting from strong audience interest following Endgame. As the direct narrative continuation of the events depicted in Avengers: Endgame, the film served as the official conclusion of Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and also marked the final chapter of the Infinity Saga, bringing to a close the interconnected storyline that had begun with Iron Man, 2008. Rather than launching Phase 4 as many fans initially believed, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige later confirmed that Far From Home functioned as the emotional epilogue to the Infinity Saga by exploring the aftermath of Tony Stark's sacrifice, Peter Parker's struggle to accept greater responsibility, and the world adjusting to life after the blip. Due to its strong theatrical performance and continued audience demand, Sony Pictures re-released Spider-Man: Far From Home during the Labor Day weekend, beginning August 29, 2019, marketed as an extended version. The re-release included approximately 4 additional minutes of previously unseen footage, featuring an extended action sequence involving Spider-Man's police confiscation item retrieval mission and several additional comedic moments that had been omitted from the original theatrical cut. The re-release provided fans with extra content while helping the film achieve additional box office revenue during the late summer movie season. Several years later, in March 2024, Sony Pictures announced a global theatrical re-release program celebrating Columbia Pictures' 100th anniversary, bringing every live-action Spider-Man film back to theaters for limited engagement. As part of this special anniversary event, Spider-Man: Far From Home returned to cinemas on May 27, 2024, giving audiences another opportunity to experience the film on the big screen alongside the other entries in Sony's live-action Spider-Man franchise. The anniversary re-release celebrated the enduring popularity of Tom Holland's Spider-Man films and reaffirmed Far From Home's significance as one of the defining installments of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, serving both as the emotional epilogue to the Infinity Saga and as the bridge leading into the multiverse saga that followed. Spider-Man: Far From Home was produced on an estimated budget of approximately $160 million and achieved extraordinary commercial success, becoming one of the most profitable superhero films of 2019. The film grossed $391.3 million in the United States and Canada and $741.4 million in international markets, resulting in a worldwide total of $1.132 billion. It became the highest-grossing Spider-Man film ever released at the time, the first Spider-Man film in history to surpass the $1 billion milestone, and the highest-grossing film in Sony Pictures history, overtaking Skyfall, 2012. Worldwide, it finished as the 4th highest-grossing film of 2019, behind Avengers: Endgame, The Lion King, and Frozen 2. At the time of its theatrical run, it also ranked among the 25 highest-grossing films of all time, further cementing Spider-Man's position as one of the world's most commercially successful cinematic superheroes. According to Deadline Hollywood, after accounting for production costs, global marketing expenses, distribution fees, participations, and ancillary revenues, the film generated an estimated net profit of approximately $339 million, making it one of the studio's most financially successful releases and earning the 7th position on Deadline's annual list of the most valuable blockbusters of 2019. Prior to its domestic release, industry analysts projected that the film would earn between $165 million and $200 million during its 6-day Independence Day opening period, while Sony conservatively forecast a debut of approximately $154 million. As release approached, projections were revised downward to around $140 million, reflecting concerns over the recent underperformance of several major sequels. Nevertheless, Spider-Man: Far From Home exceeded expectations upon release. Opening on Tuesday, July 2, 2019, the film earned a record-breaking $39.3 million on its first day, including approximately $2.883 million from Tuesday night preview screenings. This established the largest Tuesday opening in North American box office history at the time. It followed with $27 million on Wednesday, setting the highest Wednesday gross ever recorded for a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and earned another $25.1 million on Independence Day, making it the second highest 4th of July gross in history, behind only Transformers, 2007. During its traditional 3-day opening weekend, the film collected $92.6 million, while its 6-day opening frame reached $185.1 million, surpassing the previous July 4th holiday record held by Spider-Man 2. 2004. It comfortably secured the #1 position at the domestic box office and demonstrated exceptional audience demand throughout the holiday period. The film continued to perform strongly in subsequent weeks. During its second weekend, it turned $45.3 million, representing a relatively modest 51% decline. a stronger hold than Spider-Man: Homecoming, which had fallen 62% in its second weekend. It remained the highest-grossing film in North America for a second consecutive weekend before eventually surrendering the top position to Disney's The Lion King. By the end of its theatrical run, Far From Home had accumulated $391.3 million domestically, making it one of the year's highest-grossing releases in North America and finishing as the seventh highest-grossing film of 2019 in the domestic market. Internationally, the film delivered equally impressive results and significantly outperformed its predecessor across numerous territories. Sony projected a worldwide debut of approximately $350 million during its first week of release and expected the film to surpass $500 million globally within its first 10 days. Those expectations were exceeded. Released 1 week earlier in China and Japan, the film generated approximately $111 million during its opening weekend across international markets, including an outstanding $98 million debut in China alone, making it one of the country's biggest superhero openings at the time. On its first day in China, the film earned $35.5 million, including $3.4 million from midnight previews, one of the strongest opening days ever recorded for a superhero film in the Chinese market. Within its first 10 days of worldwide release, Far From Home had grossed approximately $580.1 million, demonstrating exceptional global momentum. China ultimately contributed $204.8 million, becoming the film's largest international market, while other major territories included South Korea, $58.8 million, the United Kingdom, $46.6 million, Mexico, $30.4 million, Australia, $27 million, Brazil, France, Russia, and Japan, all of which delivered strong theatrical performances. The film's success across Europe, Asia, and Latin America reflected the continued worldwide popularity of both Spider-Man and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film's exceptional financial performance was driven by overwhelmingly positive audience reception, the enormous goodwill generated by Avengers: Endgame, strong word of mouth, repeat viewings, and its strategic placement as the first Marvel Studios film released after the conclusion of the Infinity Saga. Its international setting, large-scale visual spectacle, and the mystery surrounding Mysterio also broadened its global appeal. By becoming the first Spider-Man film to cross the billion-dollar threshold, Spider-Man: Far From Home established a new commercial benchmark for the franchise, reinforced the successful collaboration between Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios, and demonstrated that Spider-Man remained one of the most valuable and enduring characters in modern cinema. Spider-Man: Far From Home received widespread critical acclaim upon its theatrical release in July 2019 and has since become widely regarded as one of the strongest and most entertaining installments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Critics praised the film for successfully serving multiple purposes at once, functioning as a heartfelt coming-of-age story, an exciting international adventure, a romantic teen comedy, and a visually spectacular superhero blockbuster, while also acting as an emotional epilogue to Avengers: Endgame and the Infinity Saga. Many reviewers noted that the film effectively captured the emotional consequences of Tony Stark's death and Peter Parker's struggle to cope with grief, responsibility, and the enormous expectations placed upon him as Iron Man's spiritual successor. Rather than simply attempting to replicate the tone of previous MCU films, Far From Home was praised for presenting Peter as an ordinary teenager attempting to reclaim a normal life after surviving universe-changing events, making his emotional journey relatable even amid the film's large-scale action and science fiction elements. One of the aspects most frequently praised by critics was Jon Watts' direction, which was considered noticeably more confident and ambitious than in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Reviewers applauded Watts for successfully balancing emotional storytelling, light-hearted humor, suspense, romance, mystery, and blockbuster action without allowing any one element to overwhelm the others. Critics appreciated how the film gradually shifted from a cheerful European vacation comedy into a psychological thriller centered around deception and manipulation, with the tonal transition being handled smoothly. Many reviewers also praised the screenplay for its clever pacing, entertaining dialogue, unexpected narrative twists, and strong character interactions, arguing that it expanded Peter Parker's world while maintaining the youthful charm that had defined the character since his MCU debut. Tom Holland received some of the strongest reviews of his career for his portrayal of Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Many critics described his performance as his most emotionally mature and nuanced interpretation of the character to date. Reviewers praised Holland for effortlessly balancing Peter's awkward teenage personality, comedic timing, emotional vulnerability, romantic insecurity, and growing confidence as a superhero. Critics highlighted his believable portrayal of a young hero overwhelmed by grief following Tony Stark's death while simultaneously trying to escape the burden of responsibility by focusing on his school trip and his feelings for MJ. Holland's ability to transition naturally between heartfelt dramatic scenes and energetic action sequences was repeatedly cited as one of the film's greatest strengths, with many reviewers considering him the definitive live-action Spider-Man of his generation. The performances of the supporting cast also received widespread praise. Zendaya earned acclaim for bringing greater emotional depth and individuality to Michelle M.J. Jones, with critics praising her understated chemistry with Holland and the believable evolution of Peter and MJ's romantic relationship throughout the film. Jacob Batalon was commended for providing much of the film's humor while continuing to portray Ned Leeds as Peter's loyal and supportive best friend. Supporting performances from Samuel L. Jackson, Kobe Smulders, Marissa Tomei, Jon Favreau, Tony Revolori, Martin Starr, and J.B. Smoove were also positively received, with critics appreciating the ensemble's natural chemistry and comedic timing that gave the school trip sequences an authentic, entertaining atmosphere. Perhaps the film's most celebrated performance came from Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck, Mysterio. Critics universally praised Gyllenhaal's charismatic, theatrical, and unpredictable portrayal of the classic Spider-Man villain. Reviewers noted how convincingly he portrayed Beck as both an inspiring superhero mentor and a deeply manipulative narcissist driven by resentment, ego, and a desire for fame. Many critics considered Mysterio one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's strongest antagonists because his motivations were grounded in emotional insecurity rather than world domination. His mastery of illusion technology allowed him to challenge Spider-Man psychologically instead of relying solely on physical strength, creating a unique type of conflict rarely seen in previous MCU films. Numerous publications ranked Gyllenhaal's performance among the best villain portrayals in this franchise, praising his ability to seamlessly transition from warmth and charm to menace and instability. The screenplay was widely praised for exploring themes rarely emphasized in previous Spider-Man films. Critics appreciated its examination of grief, trust, misinformation, hero worship, media manipulation, identity, truth, and personal responsibility. Many reviewers observed that Mysterio's use of advanced holographic technology, fabricated narratives, and manipulated public perception reflected increasingly relevant real-world issues involving fake news, social media influence, and manufactured public opinion. Peter Parker's emotional struggle to stop comparing himself with Tony Stark and instead discover his own identity as Spider-Man resonated strongly with audiences and critics alike. Rather than portraying Peter as a fully developed superhero, the film emphasized his imperfections, insecurities, and gradual growth, making his ultimate victory feel emotionally satisfying. The film's visual presentation received particularly enthusiastic praise. Critics highlighted the spectacular cinematography, vibrant European locations, colorful production design, and seamless integration of practical photography with cutting-edge visual effects. The action sequences set in Venice, Prague, Berlin, London, and aboard the Stark jet were frequently described as among the most visually dynamic sequences in any Spider-Man film. However, the sequence that generated the greatest critical acclaim was Mysterio's elaborate illusion battle against Spider-Man. Many reviewers described it as one of the most inventive and visually breathtaking action sequences ever produced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Its constantly shifting realities, surreal dream imagery, distorted perspectives, impossible architecture, and psychological horror elements drew comparisons to films such as Doctor Strange, Inception, The Matrix, and even animated works like Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. Critics praised the filmmakers for creating action scenes that relied as much on imagination and psychological tension as on traditional superhero combat. The visual effects themselves were considered among the finest of any MCU production released at the time. Reviewers praised the convincing realization of Mysterio's holographic illusions, the elemental creatures, Spider-Man's acrobatic movements, and the large-scale destruction featured throughout the climax. The illusion sequences, in particular, were applauded for their creativity, technical sophistication, and ability to immerse audiences in Peter Parker's increasingly unstable perception of reality. Many critics regarded these scenes as some of the most artistically ambitious visual effects ever featured in a live-action Spider-Man film. Michael Giacchino's musical score also received widespread praise. Critics noted that the soundtrack effectively blended emotional orchestral themes with energetic superhero motifs, enhancing both the film's intimate character moments and its large-scale action sequences. Reviewers appreciated how Giacchino incorporated heroic musical elements while simultaneously reflecting Peter Parker's emotional uncertainty and gradual transformation into a more confident Spider-Man. Another aspect that critics consistently praised was the film's balance between emotional storytelling and humor. Unlike several superhero films that focused almost exclusively on large-scale action, Far From Home successfully blended romantic comedy, school-life humor, awkward teenage interactions, and genuine emotional drama. The European class trip, Peter's attempts to confess his feelings to MJ, Ned's unexpected romance, and the comedic interactions among Peter's classmates helped maintain the youthful spirit that has always distinguished Spider-Man from many other superheroes. Critics felt these lighter moments made the emotional scenes even more effective, giving the film a warmth and charm that appealed to audiences of all ages. The European setting itself was also widely praised for giving the sequel a distinctive visual identity. Instead of relying primarily on New York City, the filmmakers took Spider-Man across several iconic European landmarks, including Venice's canals, Prague's historic streets, the Austrian Alps, and London's Tower Bridge. Critics appreciated that each location possessed its own visual style and atmosphere, making the film feel like an international adventure while expanding Spider-Man's cinematic world beyond its traditional urban setting. Many reviewers also praised the film's role within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As the first MCU film released after Avengers: Endgame, Far From Home faced the difficult challenge of addressing the emotional aftermath of one of the franchise's biggest events while simultaneously introducing a new direction for future stories. Critics believe the film accomplished this effectively by acknowledging Tony Stark's sacrifice without allowing grief to dominate the narrative. Instead, it used Peter's emotional journey as a bridge between the Infinity Saga and the next generation of Marvel heroes, making it both a satisfying conclusion and an exciting new beginning. Among professional critics, Owen Gleiberman of Variety praised Tom Holland's charismatic performance and the film's emotional sincerity, writing that while it followed the familiar Marvel formula, it nevertheless delivered meaningful consequences and satisfying entertainment. Richard Roeper of the Chicago Sun-Times awarded the film 3 out of 4 stars, describing it as zesty, sweet and satisfying while commending its humor, performances, emotional resonance, and energetic pacing. Bernard Boo of Pop Matters considered the film an ideal conclusion to Marvel Studios' Phase 3, arguing that it served as a fitting farewell to one of the most successful periods in blockbuster filmmaking history. Alonzo Durald of The Wrap praised its successful blend of teen road trip comedy and superhero spectacle, particularly highlighting the performances of Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, and Jake Gyllenhaal, whose charismatic performance he described as one of the film's greatest assets. Although the overall reception was overwhelmingly positive, some critics expressed reservations regarding certain aspects of the film. Several reviewers argued that the narrative occasionally relied too heavily on established Marvel Cinematic Universe formulas and that some emotional developments were overshadowed by the franchise's broader continuity. Brian Lowry of CNN praised the performances but criticized what he considered an uneven screenplay, somewhat conventional villain motivations, and an overemphasis on teenage romance. David Ehrlich of IndieWire offered one of the film's more critical assessments, arguing that it functioned primarily as narrative maintenance following Avengers: Endgame rather than as a truly groundbreaking standalone story. He also criticized portions of the action choreography and believed the film devoted insufficient attention to Peter Parker's personal growth. John Anderson of The Wall Street Journal complimented the performances of Holland and Zendaya but argued that the heavy reliance on visual effects occasionally distracted from the storytelling. Nevertheless, even many of the film's mixed reviews acknowledged the strength of the performances, entertaining tone, and impressive technical craftsmanship.